Pretty slick.
He's Bob Pollock. He's pretty slick, all right. He's from the Extension Service, joining us at 7:45 on the nose this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you back.
Good to be back.
All right, so
How are you?
I'm just lovely. I'm looking out at this beautiful weather we've had recently and saying...
You're talking about spring gobbler season and fishing season coming in, and we're looking out at the snow on the ground.
Not thrilled with the way the weather's been lately, but things are starting to look up a little bit. Sunshine the next 4 or 5 days.
Which is abnormal for here.
Temperatures warming into the upper 50s, maybe the low 60s by the end of next week. And some rain on the way then, but that's okay too, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so...
We're okay on the moisture, but we know the rain will come.
If
Just warmer weather will help.
If you have a question for Bob, 479-1160 or 349-WCCS. And you can call right now. Please don't wait till the end of the segment when he doesn't have time to answer it. What you got there in your hand?
Oh, I just wanted to... Thought while there is still snow on the ground, we could mention a couple of things. One is we have a new enologist.
Enologist.
At Penn State, yes.
Okay.
And so they are have been hired to... We had one before, and she went on to another job.
Okay.
And so we've replaced her with a woman by the name of Molly Kelly.
Okay.
All right. So she's here to address the technical needs of the Pennsylvania wine industry and lead educational programming focusing on wine quality throughout the state. And she'll also conduct applied research as well as educational programs for commercial winemakers and work closely with researchers in the food science and plant science departments. And she's a Pennsylvania native, and although she's been some other places, she's most recently been at Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University. We would know it as Virginia Tech in Virginia, working there as an enology instructor. And she's done a few other things along the way, but the local connection is that she received a bachelor's degree in medical technology from IUP.
Which led her into wine.
Yeah.
Perfectly, I understand.
So couple steps along the way there.
Yeah.
But
one thing led to another.
Yeah. I saw that and thought, oh, well, there's a local connection.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So how do people who are interested in that industry, maybe vineyard owners, how do they take advantage of her expertise? Do they have to contact her? Does she come around and make seminars? Or what's the deal?
Well, she'll be doing a combination of that, but people can reach out to her. She's based at the main campus at University Park, and it's easy enough to find her name and email and phone number on there, and or we can make those connections if need be, and go from there.
All right, there you go. So you did have something of great value there.
Yeah, so we've had a very active program in that with the previous person that was there, and so she'll be here to continue and build on that in the coming months and years.
That is terrific. All right, very good.
So there you go.
One of the things that we've been talking about, and we always talk about it this time of the year, is, and we've had some callers talk about this too, is pruning to get ready for the growing season. Despite the snow out there, this is the time to be doing that, isn't it?
Yeah, and on these, yes, especially on the fruit crops, in the vineyards, it's time to be out there starting on that. And of course, it depends on how many trees you have and how much time it takes to get the job done. But we want to try and get it done prior to growth in the spring, so prior to when the buds open and the new leaves come out.
All right, so that's one type of pruning. I want to talk about this type, though. People plant certain trees, shrubs, whatever, in certain areas, and they want them to get only to this size, this projected size. And it's been that size that they've been aiming for a few years now, but they can tell that it's not going to last unless they do something. They want to keep it at that size range. Are there things to do and certain times of the season? For instance, I always tell you about my yews.
Yes.
Or for yews or for other types of shrubbery, in order to keep them from outgrowing what you want them to be, the height at which you want them to be, or the girth.
one of the first things is when you select those plants to begin with. So if you have that option to select those when prior to planting, as you're laying things out, or you need to replace something, look at that specific type of plant that you want and determine what is the natural height that this plant will grow on its own.
In other words, how high does it want to be, as opposed to how high you want it to be?
Most people are looking for things that they don't have to work on every day, that will require minimum maintenance, that will grow, fill in the area that they'd like to have filled in, and then kind of be at that size range for as long as possible. Oftentimes we forget that very important step at the beginning of the right plant in the right place.
Yeah.
And just taking a little time to say, this thing will get 50 feet high. Well, then you really don't want to plant it in a spot that you only want something 15 feet high. Because ultimately, while it's small now, it's going to grow. So there are a number of dwarf plants. There are a number of plants that only get 3 feet high or 5 feet higher, and 3 or 5 feet wide. So it really comes down to looking at that closely, and if you do that, get that job done to begin with, that'll help you out a lot.
Sure.
Throughout the years, and save you some of that effort where it gets, now it's growing over the sidewalk, and unfortunately, it's going to really keep growing over the sidewalk unless I hack it back, and then it doesn't look good. It doesn't have that natural form and shape. And one of the reasons we want to use plants is to enhance the environment, to enhance the landscape, to enhance the value of our homes and the beauty.
And if it's not doing that,
and so when we start to get into highly manicured plants or plants we have to really work on hard to keep them in bounds, oftentimes we're better off just yanking that out and replacing it with something that's more appropriate.
Yeah. Well, at our house, when we first moved in there was a shrub, a really exotic type of fir that was on the one corner that was already there when we got there, and it was really, really soft like velvet. And it was the perfect height, but within a couple of years, it was up over the roof edge and the eaves, and it was impinging on the gutters. I had to yank it out of there because there was just no way we could slow it down like that. Would have loved to have had something of that height, but people are going to inherit shrubbery that when they move into a place too, that they might not have a choice as to what's planted there.
Yeah, and oftentimes you don't know. And it may be okay for now, but then 5 or 10 years down the road, you realize, ooh, this is going to be a problem.
Yeah, it's
and the sooner you deal with that, the better off you'll be, because it's a lot easier to remove a smaller plant than it is a 60-foot tall fir that got out of bounds over time.
Yeah.
So doing that, and then on plants, and oftentimes we do need to do some of our deciduous spring flowering shrubs, the forsythias,
the rhododendron,
arbor, the rhododendron.
They take
although
over.
They're an evergreen, but there's different sizes of those too. And so if you go and you buy a rhododendron maximum, that word maximum does have meaning.
Should be a red flag,
it should,
or a purple flag, or whatever color your rhododendrons are.
That's right. And there are species and cultivars that are smaller, that'll only get, so there's so one example might be the PJM series of rhododendrons. Those are going to be smaller. They have a smaller leaf, and they're going to have a smaller size. And then the Carolinianums comes up, and then you get into the maximums. And then there's a zillion different specific cultivars, but they're of those species. So it's going to be rhododendron, and then Carolinianum is one of the species. And then from there, you'll get into specific varieties. And with rhododendrons, a lot of that comes down to flower color. So they'll have selected those over time, and then they'll always maintain that genus and species, but then they come up with a different name because it's a different flower color. And that's really the only thing that's different in a lot of those.
Okay.
So you just have to be discerning and look at that and be selective in what you're picking, so that you can get it in the right place and give it enough room to just obtain that, to be able to grow. But we could always prune those. We can selectively prune. Rhododendrons, we don't want to shear them, but we can go in with our hand clippers and go in and remove branches here and there just to remove the height, and you can even pinch them back. So as the new growth comes out in the spring, you can go in there with your fingers and pinch part of that off, and that'll shorten up some of the growth. So there's all different ways to do that. And other shrubs like the forsythias and the lilacs, those we do need to go in and physically remove branches, whole stems down to the base of the plant periodically, so that we can encourage new growth. As keep the plant smaller, and that'll keep it to its still natural form, but it also rejuvenates it, sends a signal to that plant that, I lost a whole branch here, I need to replace that, grow new wood, and they always flower better on that younger wood than they do 15 or 25-year-old big canes in there.
I'm assuming that you have resources that can tell people how to prune and what type of pruning needs to be done on the various different plants that they might have.
Yeah, we have some of that, and there's an awful lot of that out there in the world. People that have written pruning books and things that get into all that.
You could go watch the YouTube video of it.
Yes, these days.
Are you on any of those?
These days, not on any pruning ones at the moment.
No,
but yeah.
What are the big Bob Pollock YouTube videos? What are you doing in your YouTube videos? You've grown strawberries and stuff.
I've tried to stay out of some of that.
Have you? Some of it. He hasn't said that he has stayed out of all of it, though, huh? All right, there you go. Folks will be looking to do that over the course of the next few weeks. It's time to get out there. Wear your boots right now.
And the raspberries and the blueberries and the apple trees and all those things. Yep.
You betcha. All right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bob Pollock from the Extension Service, and you can